Imagine a world without Patrick Star. Seems peaceful, right? But without him, Bikini Bottom would be controlled by someone who would only care about money. And it's not Mr. Krabs. No Patrick means no dumb distractions, no ridiculous chaos. Bikini Bottom runs smoother, cleaner, quieter. But Patrick's idiotic ramblings were the missing puzzle pieces that kept things in balance. And without him, that balance collapses. It starts small, a ripple in the ocean, and then the whole world shifts. SpongeBob's life is the same. He's energetic, enthusiastic, and full of life. He still works at the Krusty Krab and still lives in his pineapple house. He still wakes up every morning with that same enthusiasm. At first, he does what he always does. He throws himself into work at the Krusty Krab. And in this timeline, his hard work actually pays off in the end, as he will find out later in the video. But the same success turns out to be disastrous for Bikini Bottom. Now, if there's no one to goof off with, then there's no reason to waste time. He clocks in early, he cleans the entire restaurant before Mr. Krabs even shows up, he memorizes every Krabby Patty order by heart, down to the last pickle. His hands move like a machine, flipping patties with absolute precision. Mr. Krabs notices, and he loves it. The customers are happy and the food is great. However, there is no spark. The ridiculous joy in SpongeBob's movements is gone. He's now just a perfect employee, running the restaurant like a well-oiled machine. At this point, you might think that SpongeBob will get a promotion or bonus or something like that. But come on, this is Mr. Krabs. You cannot expect anything like that from him. SpongeBob's success comes in a very different way. But it's not only his hard work that leads to his success. He has this constant feeling that something in his routine is quieter. He finds himself telling a joke but stops halfway because he realizes something. No one is there to laugh. One day he finishes work early but lingers in the kitchen, hesitant to go home. He's thinking about something. Maybe he doesn't belong here. Not that he no longer wants to cook food, he just feels that he can do much more. But he brushes off this feeling. It's not like he's lonely, he still has people in his life, but the connection is not the same now. Although he sometimes still annoys Squidward and talks to Sandy, the relationships are different. Without Patrick dragging him into absurd nonsense, his relationship with Sandy changes too. Sandy is not the same fun scientist you would expect her to be, because without Patrick's endless distractions, she and SpongeBob never develop that deep friendship. In the normal timeline, their bond isn't just built on mutual respect. It's built on dumb adventures, stupid competitions, silly moments where SpongeBob plays the fool and Sandy, the level-headed genius, plays along. But in this timeline, she focuses on her work. She buries herself in research. She waves to SpongeBob when she sees him, chats with him in passing, but the connection never grows. And SpongeBob, well, without that playful relationship to balance him out, he only goes deeper into his work, and that's when the real shift happens. One day, while wiping down the Krusty Krab counters for the third time that morning, he realizes something. He could do better. Why should he just be an employee when he could be running his own business? Why keep working under Mr. Krabs when he has the skills to build something bigger? So, he does. He saves every paycheck, every tip, every spare cent, and pours it into a food stall of his own. It starts small, just a humble stand serving the best burgers Bikini Bottom has ever tasted. But unlike the original SpongeBob, this version isn't distracted by jellyfishing or karate or pointless fun. He's focused, and he expands fast. At first, Mr. Krabs laughs it off, but then the customers start choosing SpongeBob's food over the Krusty Krab. Then, SpongeBob's stall turns into a restaurant. Then, it turns into multiple restaurants. And suddenly, SpongeBob SquarePants is no longer just a fry cook. He's a businessman, a successful one. But with every new restaurant, every business deal, every dollar sign, he feels it. That emptiness. He doesn't know why. He has everything he ever wanted. He's making real money, the kind even Mr. Krabs respects. He has influence, power, and success, but he still feels a lack of fulfillment, and this lack of fulfillment eventually turns into something darker, something that will take away the freedom of Bikini Bottom residents. Soon, SpongeBob becomes a mogul, a legend in the fast food industry. What started as a single food stall has transformed into a massive empire, stretching across Bikini Bottom. But what about the Krusty Krab? Well, SpongeBob's empire grows so much that Mr. Krabs is forced to do something that he could have never thought of. Mr. Krabs, once the undisputed king of the burger business, can now feel that he has been outpaced. His greed met its match in SpongeBob's relentless efficiency. But Mr. Krabs doesn't want to give up. He tries hiring better fry cooks, he tries to get Plankton to his side, and he even offers his life savings to SpongeBob. Mr. Krabs offers SpongeBob to become a partner in his business, but SpongeBob refuses. He is now a smart businessman and is slowly turning into a darker version of himself. Maybe he's now becoming greedy, or maybe he just can't let go of the feeling of being lonely. But he wants to be isolated and above everyone now, so he buys out the Krusty Krab and rebrands it under his empire. He's still not satisfied, and this is actually the beginning of Bikini Bottom's downfall. After acquiring the Krusty Krab, SpongeBob thinks of expanding further. He goes on to buy out smaller competitors and eventually absorbs every major eatery into his growing empire. The Chum Bucket? Gone. SpongeBob buys it outright, not to run it, but just to demolish it. He claims it for beautification purposes, but deep down, there's something else at play, a need to control everything. He should have stopped right here, but he didn't. He started influencing other areas of Bikini Bottom. Behind the scenes, he's trying to take total control of Bikini Bottom. In his mind, his mission is to create a perfect version of Bikini Bottom, just like every other criminal. I mean, Thanos was also trying to build a perfect universe, right? SpongeBob has already taken over the economy. Next, he wants to reshape the thinking of people, which he does by funding the boating school, financing a complete remodel. His money comes with conditions. Mrs. Puff, desperate for funding, agrees, but now every student must watch corporate training videos on customer service and efficiency. A boating school once meant to teach young fish how to drive now indoctrinates them into SpongeBob's vision of Bikini Bottom. Now, Bikini Bottom is unrecognizable. The streets are pristine, the businesses run with absolute efficiency, and every citizen follows SpongeBob's meticulously crafted regulations. Chaos has been eliminated, but didn't anyone notice what SpongeBob was doing? Was everyone okay with making him the crazy dictator of Bikini Bottom who wouldn't take the fun out of their lives? Well, most of the residents were happy until SpongeBob did something they could never think of. While the citizens of Bikini Bottom initially welcomed the order, it didn't take long before the cracks started to show. The residents were organized, disciplined, and the economy was thriving, but no one was happy. Everyone had this constant feeling of anxiety. They were being controlled, and soon they started realizing it. You would think that this would end SpongeBob's rule over Bikini Bottom, but no, SpongeBob was already prepared. He knew this time would come, and he had already hired Plankton as his right hand, which means Karen was on SpongeBob's side. Karen created mind control devices to control the jellyfish. When the residents started protesting, SpongeBob used his army of jellyfish to control them. But this wasn't enough. He started injecting mind control substances into the food items that were being sold in his restaurants. And when that's not enough, he turns to the law. He funds the SpongeBob Initiative, a movement aimed at improving Bikini Bottom. He pushes for regulations that eliminate chaos. No more noise pollution, no more unregulated street vendors, no more fun that gets in the way of progress. It's like he was trying to eliminate all the fun stuff that he would do with Patrick. His first target is jellyfishing. It's outlawed because of being too reckless. He restricts bubble blowing to designated areas, and only with a permit. And karate is entirely banned. He enforces these rules with military precision, using squads of trained employees who report directly to him. Bikini Bottom is no longer the free-spirited town it once was. It's an organized machine, running on SpongeBob's vision of perfection. But there's someone who has had enough of SpongeBob's nonsense. This is a person who SpongeBob couldn't control, someone who knew it all along. This someone warned the people of Bikini Bottom against SpongeBob, but the residents were too naive. Meanwhile, SpongeBob still feels that deep, aching emptiness. He's done everything right. He's removed inefficiency and increased productivity, made Bikini Bottom a better place. And still, it isn't enough. Sandy, now more isolated than ever, has had enough. She tries to reason with him, confronts him in his towering corporate office. SpongeBob, you're changing Bikini Bottom into something it was never meant to be. But SpongeBob barely looks up from his reports. I'm making it better. She tells him, no, you're making it yours. SpongeBob clenches his fists, but doesn't respond. Sandy doesn't give up and tries to remind him that he used to love this place because of how crazy it was and the adventures. But now, SpongeBob has sucked the life out of it. Her words should strike a chord. But instead, they only make SpongeBob angry. He dismisses her, calls her short-sighted, says she doesn't understand, because in SpongeBob's mind, he's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. He's creating order. But deep down, in a part of himself he refuses to acknowledge, her words shake something loose. One evening, he takes a walk through his city, hoping to find some reassurance that he made the right choices. But Bikini Bottom has become sterile, mechanical, lifeless. And as he walks past Goo Lagoon, he sees Sandy sitting alone, staring at the water. She doesn't even turn to acknowledge him, not out of anger, but because she simply doesn't care anymore. SpongeBob hesitates before walking away, but for the first time, a thought enters his mind, one he can't push away. What was he like before all of this? His memory is flawless. He can recall every single decision he's ever made, every business deal, every law he put into place, every step of his climb to power, and yet there's a gap. A piece of his life that feels like it was ripped away before it even had a chance to exist. Someone who should be there. Someone who never was. He clutches his chest, an overwhelming feeling washing over him. Grief for something he can't even remember. The realization hits him like a tidal wave. For the first time, SpongeBob doesn't see Bikini Bottom as a perfect machine. He sees it for what it truly is. A cold, hollow empire. Not a city filled with passion, adventure, and absurdity, but an empty world, meticulously crafted by his own hands. He stands in the middle of jellyfish fields, now barren and silent. No jellyfish, no net in his hands, no best friend by his side. And it finally breaks him. He drops to his knees, whispering a name that his mind tells him never existed. Patrick. He doesn't know why he says it. He doesn't know who that is. But deep in his soul, he feels the weight of a missing piece, a hole in reality itself. Patrick Star was never born, and without him, SpongeBob SquarePants became something he was never meant to be. Not a sponge filled with joy, wonder, and adventure, but a lonely, broken king, rolling over a world that never should have existed. And that is what happens when you remove Patrick Star from Bikini Bottom. Without him, SpongeBob lost the one thing that kept him grounded, the one force of absurdity that balanced out his obsessive drive. And the result? A world that runs with perfect efficiency, but at the cost of everything that made Bikini Bottom special. But now, I have a question for you. What should our next what-if scenario be? What if Mr. Krabs was never born? Or if Plankton actually won? Let me know in the comments. And stay tuned, because the next what if might just be darker than this one.